Look at your feet right now. Just look at them. They seem so ordinary, so mechanical. 10 toes, 2 arches, 2 heels. Sitting there doing absolutely nothing while you watch this. But here's the strange part. Those feet are, at this very moment, having 1,000 conversations a second with your brain. Tiny pressure sensors buried in your skin are firing electrical signals upward through your spinal cord, whispering to your cerebellum, that walnut-sized lump at the back of your skull, telling it exactly where the floor is, exactly how your weight is distributed, exactly which way the wind of gravity is trying to pull you. And your brain, like the most sophisticated balancing computer ever built, is making micro corrections to your muscles in real time, all without you thinking a single conscious thought about it. You are, right now, performing an act of astonishing physics. You are defying gravity. Standing upright on 2 narrow stilts is not easy. It just feels easy. And that difference between what feels easy and what is actually happening inside you is the story we need to tell today. Because somewhere around the age of 70, the whispers between your feet and your brain start to get quieter. And when that signal fades too much, people fall. And falls for people over 70 are one of the most dangerous things in the world. But here is the beautiful, hopeful, almost ridiculously simple truth. You can turn the volume back up. Let me show you how. First, let's understand the machine. Think of your body's balance system as a 3-legged stool. Not a bad analogy, because a 3-legged stool, unlike a 4-legged table, never wobbles. Every leg shares the load perfectly. The first leg is your vestibular system, which lives in your inner ear. It's a tiny set of fluid-filled tubes and chambers, and when you move, that fluid sloshes, bending microscopic hairs that fire electrical signals telling your brain you're tilting left, you're accelerating forward, you've just spun clockwise. The second leg is your vision, which gives your brain a map of the environment, walls, floors, doorways, so it can predict obstacles and verify where down is. And the third leg, the one that most people never think about, is something called proprioception. This is arguably the most important leg of all, and it has almost no name recognition, which is a crime against biology. Proprioception comes from the Latin word for own, and that's exactly what it is: your body's sense of itself. Scattered throughout every muscle, tendon, and joint in your body are tiny sensors called mechanoreceptors. Think of them as microscopic strain gauges, the kind of device an engineer would glue to a bridge cable to measure tension. These sensors are constantly reporting the knee is at 42 degrees of bend, the ankle is bearing 70% of the body's weight, the calf muscle is stretched by this much, the hip flexor is contracting by this much. This river of data floods into your spinal cord and brain continuously, and your nervous system uses it to build what neuroscientists call a body schema, a real-time, 3-dimensional map of exactly where every part of you is in space. Close your eyes. Touch your nose with your fingertip. You did it, didn't you? That was proprioception, not vision. Your body's internal GPS, golden numbers, 0.1 seconds. This is the lag between when your foot hits an unexpected surface, a crack in the pavement, a slippery tile, and when your brain can issue a correction signal back to your muscles. 1/10 of a second. That's the window. In a younger, well-trained nervous system, the correction fires fast enough to catch a stumble before it becomes a fall. In a system with degraded proprioception and slow nerve conduction, that window widens. The stumble becomes a fall. The entire art of fall prevention is about shrinking that window back down. Now here's the physics lesson hiding inside all of this. Your body is an inverted pendulum. Picture a broomstick balanced on the palm of your hand, tip pointing up. That broomstick is constantly falling in every direction, all the time. The only reason it doesn't crash to the ground is because your hand keeps chasing its center of mass, making small, rapid corrections. Your body does exactly this. Your center of gravity, a point roughly 2 inches below your navel, is always drifting. Gravity is always pulling it. Your muscles are always responding. Every second you stand upright is not a state of stillness. It is a controlled, ongoing recovery from falling. You are, in the most literal physical sense, always in the process of not falling down. And the fuel for all of this, the energy currency that keeps the anti-gravity machine running, is adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Your muscle cells burn ATP the way a car engine burns gasoline, except the combustion happens at body temperature, around 37 degrees Celsius, controlled not by a spark plug but by enzymes, Biological machines made of folded proteins, incredibly precise, operating at the molecular scale. Every time a muscle fiber contracts, it burns ATP. Every time a nerve fires, it burns ATP to reset the electrical charge across its membrane, like recharging a tiny battery billions of times a second. The slow, burning fire in your cells never goes out. It just burns hotter or cooler depending on demand. When you exercise, you stoke that fire. When you sit still for months, the fire banks low, and the machinery begins to rust. This is where aging enters the story, and it's not the villain you might think. Aging is not a malfunction. It's physics. Every complex system that processes energy tends toward disorder over time. That's the second law of thermodynamics, and it applies to stars, to cities, and to human bodies with equal indifference. But here's the key insight that changes everything. Thermodynamics also tells us that you can locally resist disorder by putting energy in. A refrigerator keeps things cold in a warm room by constantly pumping energy to fight entropy. Exercise does exactly the same thing for your body. It is an anti-entropy pump. And when it comes to balance and falls, the specific kind of entropy we need to fight is the gradual silencing of proprioceptive signals. After about age 65, several things happen in the nervous system simultaneously. The mechanoreceptors in the feet and ankles become less sensitive, partly because of changes in skin elasticity, partly because of reduced blood flow, partly because some of the nerve fibers that carry their signals begin to thin and slow. Nerve conduction velocity, the speed at which electrical signals travel along a nerve fiber, peaks in your 20s and declines gradually from there. By 70, some peripheral nerve signals are traveling measurably slower than they did in youth. The wet electrical wires of your nervous system have not failed. They're just running at a lower bandwidth. At the same time, the vestibular system in the inner ear loses some of its hair cells, those tiny mechanosensors, and they don't regenerate. Vision often degrades, and the muscles themselves, through a process called sarcopenia, gradually lose mass and fast twitch fiber density, the very fibers you need for rapid, reflex-level corrections. But, and this is the part that should make you sit up straighter, none of this is fixed. None of it is a one-way street. The nervous system retains something called neuroplasticity throughout life. This means that with the right stimulus, nerve pathways can strengthen, new synaptic connections can form, and the brain can actually reassign processing resources to compensate for degraded inputs. The body is not a machine that breaks and stays broken. It is a machine that adapts. It was built to adapt. Adaptation is its most fundamental design feature. Golden number, 30 seconds. Stand on one leg, eyes open, and time yourself. If you can hold it for 30 seconds without grabbing a wall, your balance system is in excellent shape. If you can't hold it for 10 seconds, your proprioceptive feedback and hip stabilizer strength are telling you something important. Most people over 70 who haven't been doing specific balance training fall well below 30 seconds. The good news, this number is not fixed. With training, people in their 80s have been documented improving their single leg stand time by 400%. So what does the exercise actually look like? Here is where we get to the beautiful simplicity at the center of this whole story. The interventions that most consistently reduce falls in older adults are not complicated gym routines. They are not expensive machines. They are slow, deliberate, low-impact movements that specifically challenge and rebuild the proprioceptive system by making the body navigate small instabilities. Think about it from the engineer's perspective. If you want to repair a sensor, you don't leave it idle. You give it signal. You use it. The stimulus for proprioceptive restoration is controlled, gentle challenge. Standing on slightly unstable surfaces, shifting weight from foot to foot in slow, mindful patterns, performing movements that require the body to find and maintain its center of gravity under varying conditions. Tai Chi is one of the most studied examples, and the data is remarkable. Multiple large clinical trials have shown that 12 weeks of regular Tai Chi practice, those slow, flowing movements that look almost like dancing in slow motion, reduce fall incidence in adults over 70 by as much as 55%. Not 5%, 55%. The mechanism is not mysterious once you understand the physics. Tai Chi is essentially a proprioceptive training protocol disguised as meditation in motion. Every slow weight shift, every carefully placed step, every moment of controlled, single leg stance is flooding the mechanoreceptors in the feet and ankles with rich, varied signal. It's like playing music through a speaker that's been gathering dust. the circuits wake back up. Heel to toe walking, simply walking in a straight line, placing the heel of one foot directly in front of the toes of the other, arms out for small corrections. Does something similar. It narrows the base of support, forcing the balance system to work harder. The vestibular system has to recalibrate. The proprioceptors fire more intensely. The cerebellum, that ancient, deeply buried balance processor that handles the non-conscious mechanics of movement, receives a richer training signal and begins to tighten its corrections. Calf raises, rising onto the balls of the feet and lowering slowly, perhaps 10 or 15 repetitions, done near a counter for safety, strengthen the very muscles that make those split-second ankle corrections when you catch a stumble. The ankle joint, from a biomechanical standpoint, is your body's first line of defense against falling. It is the brake pad, and like any brake pad, it needs to be maintained. Golden numbers, 3 times per week. The research consensus is clear. Balance and strength training performed at least 3 times per week is the threshold at which significant protective adaptation occurs. Daily is even better, but 3 times per week for 12 weeks is enough to measurably change fall risk. The body doesn't need enormous doses of stress to adapt. It needs consistent, appropriate doses. This is the principle of Hormoz's small challenges that, repeated regularly, build robustness rather than damage. Exercise in this sense is controlled damage. Tiny, gentle, purposeful damage. And the body's response to that damage, the repair, the reinforcement, the upregulation of neural pathways and muscle fiber density, is what we call getting stronger. Now let's zoom out, because there's something happening in this story that connects the 80-year-old doing calf raises in her kitchen to something much larger. When you look at the universe, really look at it, you see the same pattern everywhere. Everything that persists in a changing environment does so by continuously spending energy to maintain order against the constant pull of entropy. Cells pump ions across membranes to maintain the electrical charge that makes nerve signals possible. Stars fuse hydrogen to resist gravitational collapse. Planets maintain liquid water by orbiting in just the right thermal band. And human bodies, these extraordinary, improbable bags of seawater and stardust, maintain their upright, two-legged dignity by continuously burning energy to process information, adjust, and correct. The fall is not just a medical event, it is a physics event. It is a moment when the information flow, from floor to foot to nerve to brain to muscle, becomes too slow or too quiet to overcome the insistence of gravity. And the exercise is not just physical therapy, it is signal restoration. It is the deliberate amplification of a communication network that entropy is trying to silence. When a 75-year-old stands on one leg for 30 seconds, she is not just strengthening an ankle. She is participating in the deepest project of biology, the ongoing, effortful negotiation with entropy, the refusal to go quietly toward disorder. Golden number 4 centimeters. This is the average diameter of the circle of stability, the region around your center of gravity within which your balance system can make passive corrections without taking a step. In a well-trained older adult, that circle is larger. In someone with poor proprioception and weak ankle stabilizers, it's smaller. Every time you practice balance, you are literally enlarging that circle. You are expanding the envelope of stability around the center of your physical self. And isn't that just a magnificent metaphor for what we're all doing here? Every one of us is an upright structure on a spinning rock, balanced between forces we can barely see, sustained by signals we never consciously process, powered by a fire we can't directly observe. We are miraculous balancing acts, all of us, every day. The difference between a person who falls and a person who doesn't, in the biology, in the physics, often comes down to whether those signals are loud enough, fast enough, clear enough to do their job. And the extraordinary thing, the thing that should feel like a gift, is that we have the ability to turn that signal back up. With something as humble as standing on one leg next to a kitchen counter, with something as gentle as walking heel to toe down a hallway, with something as quiet as slow, deliberate movement practiced 3 mornings a week. The universe is 14 billion years old. It built stars so that those stars could forge carbon. It arranged carbon into molecules so that those molecules could fold into proteins. It arranged proteins into cells so that those cells could build nervous systems. And it built nervous systems so that something, some creature, someone, could one day stand upright on 2 feet, feel the ground beneath them, feel the pull of the earth, and know, deeply, physically, in every proprioceptive sensor in their body, that they are here, balanced, present, connected. Don't let that signal go quiet without a fight. Stand up, feel the floor, feel the 10,000 conversations your feet are already having with your brain, and then gently, beautifully, with full knowledge of the physics at play, practice not falling. It is, in the most literal sense possible, the most human thing you can do.